on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. That's because we had Brian, who just now figured out how to run his computer. And I am Mike Goodpaster, along with Indiana basketball legend Steve Risley, 1981 national champion. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, doing great, great, very good. Girls are doing good right now, and boys had a good night. So it's all fun and games.
Yes, we did, until somebody gets hurt in the NCAA tournament. That's usually Purdue fans' feelings. And, of course, we've got our guest, Brian Moore from the Got Woodson Facebook page. How you doing today, Brian?
I'm doing good. My two favorite teams won yesterday, so how can you top that?
Well, if we could have got a Kentucky loss, then it would have been your three favorite, right?
Well, they're my three favorite. Yeah, that's right.
All right, so let's go ahead and let's look at the Indiana Kent State game. And I thought for 40 minutes, Indiana played as well as we've seen them play. And when you look at the statistics on this game, guys, Indiana shot 47%. They hit 35% from 3-point range, 73%. The only thing here, and only 7 turnovers, but the thing that really concerns me, especially playing Miami, is the fact that we got out rebounded 42-39 by Kent State. And the thing that really bothers me, offensive rebound wise, Indiana got out rebounded 19-10. Luckily, Kent State only had 13 second chance points. If you give up 19 offensive rebounds to Miami, you're probably giving up more than 13 second chance points, Steve.
Yeah, that statistic surprised me because I felt that Indiana dominated the boards. I guess we just were getting the key rebounds. When I saw that stat last night, that they out rebounded us as big as they did, that was a shock to me because I felt that even so, Indiana controlled the boards. We got the key rebounds. We made good use of our offensive boards, obviously much better than they did. And I felt that Race and Trace dominated inside, but that stats don't tell a different story. But I'm not sure that their rebounds were relevant or important. Much like Edie wasn't relevant or important for Purdue. Painter made sure of that.
Hey, we'll talk about Purdue at the end of the show.
Okay, all right. I thought that, the thing that pleased me the most was the 7 turnovers Indiana had in the tournament. The balanced play, I think Indiana went a little deeper on the bench with more significant minutes. And the fact that really in the last 10 minutes, Indiana only had 3 turnovers. So 7 for the game, 3 in the last 10 minutes of the game, which is crunch time. That's when Indiana really pulled away and put it to bed. They handled the rock. I thought Indiana controlled the tempo from the get-go. I think they set the pace. They set the tempo. Their defensive pressure up top was good. Was it Corey? Is that their kid's name? They're good guard.
Sincere Curry. Yeah.
Curry,
Yeah.
I mean, he scored 15 points, but I think he was like, what, 5 or 6 for 30 or something
Yeah,
like
he
that.
was 5 for 18. He was
Yeah,
only 1 for 6 from 3-point range.
Yeah. And what Indiana did defensively, I think that they held Kent State to what, 37% shooting from the 2-point range.
Yeah.
If you're going to do that, you're going to beat a lot of basketball teams, even if you get out rebounded a little bit. Again, I think a lot of the rebounds that Kent State got to shoot them over were what I'm going to call insignificant rebounds.
I think they're insignificant because they couldn't convert them. I mean, there's nothing inconsistent.
Yeah. If you can't convert them, what good is the rebound? So exactly right, Mike. So I've said enough. I'll give it back to you, Mike.
All right, and the other thing I thought was really big, because how many times have we seen this year, Brian, where if Woody takes Trace out for a while, things seem to go off the rails. At the end of that first half, he took him out for what, 3, 4, 5 minutes, and they extended their lead by a point, which I thought was a huge point in the game. And this was a game really, the score's not really a blowout, 71-60. But even when Kent State in the second half got it down to 6 or 7 points, I never really thought like Indiana was going to lose the game or was in jeopardy.
Yeah, I was kind of laughing last night because when we've seen so many games where teams come back in the last couple of minutes and Woody started pulling out the starters with just under 2 minutes to go. And I'm like, oh, geez, are these guys going to try and make a run at the end? But I think, and back to your earlier point, I think Malik, as you said, you and I talked about, Renault is just doing a fantastic job in there. I mean, he's really come along in the last couple of weeks, and I think he really disrupted Kent State, and I think he made a big difference in the flow of the game. And of course, Race. I mean, Race woke up and he's playing more like the Race we saw at the beginning of the year before he got injured.
Yeah, so the difference there may just be he's completely healthy. And I think coming into this game, Kent State, Rob Senderhoff's team was in the tournament primarily due to his defense and his ability to force turnovers, and that was their biggest strength. Now, with a freshman at point guard, limited ball handling on the roster, I think a lot of people wondered, including us, how the Hoosiers would handle the pressure of guards like Malik Jacobs and Sincere Carey.
Mm-hmm.
But after 40 minutes at Albany, I think it's safe to say Indiana passed that test. Trey Galloway and Miller Kopp also did a great job on the defensive end to really limit this. And Brian, the stat that worried us the most before this game, I remember on the preview show, was the fact that 9 steals a game is what Kent State averaged getting.
Right.
And that made it scary. And in the end, Indiana only turned the ball over 7 times.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100% on. I think Kopp did a fantastic job, not just defensive wise, but offensively. Galloway, I mean, there was that big period there when um, Shafino got into foul trouble. What was he out like 8 or 9 minutes? I think in the
Yeah.
first half, and Galloway, uh, credit Bates. I mean, he did a good job ball handling. When he went out with 2 fouls, I was kind of shaking my head. Oh, here we go. It's going to go bad fast. But I think the bottom line is every player that was on that court last night stepped up. They may not have scored a lot of points. Galloway didn't only scored 2, I think it was. Um, but what he did, moving the ball around, what he did defensively, I think every player really contributed a great deal last night to the victory. I mean, we all know Trace. I mean, the man just he was not going to let this team lose last night. I mean, he carried it. When he came on at the end when they were trying to make a run, I mean, I forgot how many points he scored in, like, was it 5 minutes? He scored like 13 points or something
Oh, he
like
had the
that.
big dunk, and then he had the 2 spin moves. The exact
Yeah,
same move, back-to-back possessions, where he just destroyed the Kent State defender. And Robert brings up that our guards defended for 40 minutes, which is something we haven't seen this year.
they,
Of course, we've got Balin from Scottsburg. Congratulations to Scottsburg, as he says they won their first game in the semi-state this morning and play again tonight against either Garin Catholic or Beech Grove. So congratulations to Scottsburg. Now, another big takeaway I took from this game, when I think one of you guys already brought it up, was Race Thompson.
Do I not get a chance to interject?
Well, I was going to ask you about Race Thompson, but go ahead, interject.
Okay. Well, I got a comment before you get to Race Thompson. Can I make it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to beg to differ with you just a little bit, Mike, and let me finish out before you grill me. You keep talking about suspect guard play for us. I don't think you can't be suspect at guard ball handling and stuff like that when you only have 7 turnovers in a ball game.
Nobody said they were suspect last night. They were suspect all year, Steve.
Right. Well, I think what we don't have is a flashy Isaiah Thomas type guard who can single-handedly dribble his way through hell and high water. But when even the people on doing the game last night at 3:00 in the morning, we're talking about the fact that how good is your basketball team when you got a 6'8" center that can handle the rock as well, bringing the ball up court as well as Trace Jackson Davis does. So I rather than say our ball handling is suspect, I think last night what they proved is it's more than sufficient. And if you got 5 guys that can be more than sufficient with the basketball and only create 7 turnovers, only 3 in the last 10 minutes of the ball game, I think you're going to be okay in the ball handling department. As long as Indiana plays within themselves and does not try to get too flashy, I think that ball handling is not going to be an issue with this basketball team. I don't think ball handling.
It's been an issue the entire year.
Let me ask you this, Mike: has ball handling? I can't think of one. Brian or Mike, Has ball handling cost us a ball game?
Yeah,
this year?
Iowa.
Iowa, yeah.
Both
Iowa,
Iowa
okay,
games.
one game
both
out of
Northwestern
35.
game. No, you're not. You see, you cut me off. Both
Okay,
Northwestern
well, I wasn't
games.
finished yet. I didn't say.
Well, you asked
Now,
me a
Mike, would you
question.
like?
What do you mean you're not finished yet?
I was still talking.
No, you
and
weren't. You asked me a question. You said, "How many ball games
I
does this
wasn't
cost
done
us?"
prefacing the question.
Oh, so you had a question with multiple.
Go ahead, Mike. It's
No,
your
sure.
damn show.
Well,
you
you
make
know
that
what,
clear
Steve?
every week.
Well, Steve, I
Go
mean,
ahead.
the issue is this. When you bitch about it all year, too, one freaking game doesn't fix it. And the thing
I
is
bitched
this.
about
If they do it again against my – you
guard
bitched about
defense.
Shafino. Okay, you never bitched about the offense and the way the offense was run.
I'm sure I did, Mike. I'm sure you can run a tape back and find somewhere where I made a statement saying our ball handling was
So you think the ball
tonight.
has been fine all year?
I think it's been more than sufficient.
Really? That's why we lost 11 or 12 games, probably.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think
And
ball handling is not the reason we lost 11 or 12 games.
Really?
But go ahead.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
done
I think guard
talking
play
about it.
is.
What
Well,
was your question about Race Thompson?
Go ahead, Brian. I think Brian.
Well, I was just going to say, if anything, supporting what Steve's saying, I mean, their guards turned it over more than our guards did. Our number one turnover guy was Trace. And, you know,
So
you look at
my
the rest
question
of the,
would be this then, Brian. Does that mean we don't worry about guard play anymore since we had a game where we played for 40 minutes?
No, because I think,
Okay.
let's be honest, those guys were also a lot shorter than was Shafino, 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
And their guards were 6'1", 6 foot.
Yeah. They were good guards, but
Good,
quick.
But
Yeah. When we look at Race Thompson, and I think the offensive consistency, you know, this year, I think a lot of it had to do with the injuries. He struggled all season from the perimeter. 3-point, 2-point field percentage was down. But Thompson set the tone early offensively for Indiana last night, Steve. He scored 20 points. And I thought the big one was when he hit that three right in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game. And I think this team can go deep. I mean, really deep if Thompson can continue to play even close to what he did last night. Last night, he was 8 for 11 from the field and also added 9 rebounds in 29 minutes. The Hoosiers were a plus 19 with him on the floor, which is a team high for any game this year when he was on the floor.
Yeah, it's a simple answer. Woody just took a page right out of Knight's playbook in a sense that Knight always relied on his seniors in tournament time. My minutes stepped up in the tournament from what they were in the regular season. You know, I got more significant minutes in the championship game. And it was largely because I was a senior.
I thought it was because Ted Kitchell got in foul trouble.
Well,
that too.
I'm just kidding. You always tell me that, by the way, Steve. So I'm not really busting your balls.
Yeah. I think the expectation from Woodson was that Race is a senior. This is could be his last game. And I think Race took that under his wing too. And Race, you know, he's healthy for a long time. Since a long time in the season, he's healthy. He's playing well. And he stepped up last night. And now we've got to continue to have him step up for the rest of the tournament for Indiana to advance again and again and again. But if you look at the dynamics and history of Knight mentality teams, he's generally always gone to his seniors in tournament play. And there's something to be said for that. And good for Race. What a great game. Yeah, the key was him having the confidence to shoot the three-pointers and then to drill a couple of them was huge. It just loosened up the whole team.
Yeah, and if you look at Trace Jackson Davis, his final
got a
stat
slow start. Trace had a very slow start.
Trace's final stat line hasn't been done in the NCAA tournament since 1986. He had 24 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, 5 block shots, and a steal in 35 minutes. And, I mean, my comparison for the last month has been Danny Manning and, you know, the Kansas Jayhawks of 1988, where you can't really name anybody else that was on that team. But Danny Manning kind of put him on the back. What was it? Danny Manning and the Miracles. And Trace Jackson Davis, I think, has the ability to do that, Brian. Am I just being a homer? Or
No, not at all. I mean, I watched him last night, and I mean, we've watched him all year long, and his his dominance last night was just. Yeah. He scared that. I really think I'm going to sound rah-rah here, but I really think he really scared the Kent State players. They were thinking way too much when they were going there for layups. How many layups did they blow? Because Trace was standing there right near the bucket, and they were either adjusting their shots or something. But he was just an intimidating factor.
Yeah. And that brings us to the next game, which Miami beat Drake in a close game yesterday where Drake controlled it until the last 5 minutes and Drake kind of fell apart. And we've got the Miami Hurricanes, probably the second best team in the ACC, maybe the third best team. What's your first takeaway? Did you watch Miami Drake at all yesterday, Steve?
No, I didn't. I did not watch that.
Oh, damn it,
game.
Steve! That's where you act like you did. Look at the box score.
Oh, I leave the bullshit to you, Mike. You do a much better job at the bullshit.
I do, but I actually did watch the game. So
I didn't. I probably had some auto racing to watch or some golf.
Yeah,
and I watched Purdue demise themselves. But yeah, I'll defer to you and let you talk about Miami. I didn't see them play. I've not seen them play all year. I think it's a situation right now in tournament time where if Indiana plays to their ability and does what they have to do and duplicate last night's effort, it's going to be tough for anybody in the next couple of games to beat Indiana. Then you're going to get into the really talented teams.
Can I go back on one thing to the game last night?
No.
Go ahead.
I said no.
Go ahead.
Please.
It better be good, though, Brian, or the next time you ask, I'll just agree with Steve.
All right. We only had 3 players that shoot free throws.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you all a spoiler alert. Indiana won by 30. Women.
I know, but it just kind of – don't you find it kind of odd that there was only 3 players that shot a free throw on Indiana?
They only took 11 free throw shots in the whole game.
Yeah, I mean, this has not been a team that's gotten to the free throw line a lot this year. And remember this, they shot the ball really well also. So when I look at that, maybe that's got a little bit something to do with it. And also remember this, only 10 offensive rebounds is going to lead you to not have a bunch of free throws too, correct? What, Steve?
I just think Trace Jackson Davis is so damn good around the bucket. They can't even catch him to foul him.
Could be.
They can't. He's so good underneath. He's so good, and he's left-handed, which throws him off to begin with. And then he's so quick and so adept with either hand at the bucket, they can't get to him to foul him. And it's actually kind of funny just hearing you say that, Brian, because you're dead right. I was kind of concerned, too, when I looked at the stats, that we only took 11 free throws in this game. But as you were saying that, I was thinking, well, he's right. Should we be pissed about that, or should we look at that and I just chose to laugh about it and say they just can't catch our players to foul them.
Yeah,
it goes back part of the problem.
I mean, our guards are not driving in the middle, but they don't really need to last night. I mean,
they didn't need to. Yeah.
And
what was our 3-point shooting, Mike?
I think we were like 5 for 14, something like that.
Okay.
It seemed like we made a hell of a lot more than that, by the way.
Well, we hit key 3-pointers.
Yeah.
I mean, Miller Kopp hit some big ones for us. Race hit some big ones. Again, I think we took an efficient amount of 3-point shots, and I think they stung when we shot them. And yeah, but it's definitely a team that plays well from 15 feet in. Indiana is as good a team as there is in the tournament, I think.
Yeah, right, and when we look at betting on the Miami game, right now, Indiana they opened as a 1-point favorite over Miami. The Canes rallied in the second half of Friday's first round game to beat the Drake Bulldogs. The U trailed 30-25 at the half, but didn't allow itself to fall victim to an upset to a double-digit seed like Matt Painter and Purdue do every year, and played tough defensively, leading to a 16-1 closing stretch that gave Miami a 7-point win. So Miami was down like 8 or 9 points with 5 minutes left, looked dead in the water. But this is a Miami Hurricane team that last year made it to the Elite Eight. What?
They're interviewing a girl on the Hoosier IU basketball team, and she's wearing number 34.
Yeah, so. And
she's
probably about as talented as that at her 34.
Probably more talented than the other 34.
Because I'll tell you what.
Because I never got a post-game interview.
Never?
Never.
Damn. That seems unfair.
I
That
know.
seems sexist.
Go ahead.
All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got, when we look at Miami, this is the thing that concerns me about Miami. You got junior guard Isaiah Wong, who leads Miami in scoring. He averages 16.2 points, shoots 45.3%, including 37.8% from three. He also converts 83.6% of his foul shots. Now, a few other Hurricane players to watch are senior guard, and that always scares me. Senior guard Jordan Miller, 15.6 rebounds. Sophomore forward Norchad Omar, who is 13.6, 9.7 rebounds. And sophomore guard Wooga Poplar, 8.3 points per game. Plus, these probably one of the richest teams in college basketball, as one of our listeners just brought up, because of the NIL money there. They average 80 points a game. They shoot 49% from the floor, including 37.3% from three-point range. The Canes convert 78% of the free throw attempts. So everything that you look at offensively in a tournament team that would make you afraid, Steve, they have here. They've got senior guards. They've got a junior. I mean, they've got three stud guards. They average almost 80 points a game. They hit the three-point shot at almost 40%, and they hit 78% from the free throw line. So this tells me Indiana's going to have to play just as good, if not better, than they did against Kent State tomorrow night.
Yeah, Mike, you're exactly right. And it's a great observation on your point. I don't think Indiana's a basketball team that can rely on one player or good enough to beat a team just by talent alone. They've got to have fusion amongst their players, all playing well and doing their part. And we saw that last night. I thought, like I said, we touched on it, and I want both of you guys to touch on it. We went a little deeper for a longer period of time on the bench, and I thought that was critical. I really thought that was important. One, to get our starters some rest. I noticed in the second half, Mike started platooning his starters one at a time. But you're exactly right. As you get into this tournament deeper and deeper in every game, there's a reason these teams are still playing. They're good basketball teams, and they're playing the better. The farther you go, what becomes apparent is what's great about like teams like a Miami that advances or an Indiana is they can consistently play at a higher level, not just do it one game like Farley Dickinson did. Farley Dickinson will probably get their tails handed to them the next game. But they're in the history books now as one of only two teams ever to beat a number one seed. So that's their tournament for them. For teams like Miami and Indiana, so you're exactly right. Indiana's going to have to expect Miami to be a consistently good basketball team, to use their strengths for 30 to 35 minutes of a 40-minute game. That's what Indiana did last night, and that's what they're going to face from here on out. And if they get into the Sweet 16, you're going to have to give 40 minutes. It's going to be an expectation, not a, wow, that was Indiana's best game of the season last night, like we all think.
Well, hopefully we say that after each game for the next 5 games.
Exactly. That Mike, that is the key to winning this. It isn't Trace Jackson Davis going apeshit bananas in the game. It's the fact that everybody else supports and does their part for the 35 to 40 minutes they need to do. They can have a 2, 3, 4 minute lull. Every team's going to make a run at some point in time. You know, I think in the second half, Mike, I think you and I commented on this last night at about 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, but we were talking to ourselves, so nobody heard us.
Nobody heard us, exactly. But
or not ourselves, but each other.
Neither one of us were concerned because we knew how well Indiana was playing consistently, and everybody was contributing last night. When I think the lead got down to 6 points at some point in the second half, quickly, and you and I both made comments, and it felt the same that, hey, gee, I wasn't concerned about Indiana losing this game. That was going to stretch back out real quick, and it did. You know, there was a little bit of a run by Kent State. Indiana withstood it, and then they went right back into their mode and took control of the game again and settled themselves down. And Indiana is very good at doing that. You say Miami that's a strength for Miami. That's the uniqueness of the tournament. Is Indiana hasn't played Miami since when? Have they ever played them
I'm sure
before?
at some point, probably. But
Some
I don't
point,
remember.
yeah. They played enough college basketball games that run into Miami, but
Yeah, they
it
might have
hasn't
played in
been in the last
19.
couple
They might have
seasons.
played in 1922 and beat them 6-4.
Exactly, yeah. So, but that's the key is taking Miami. Indiana uses their defense like they did last night. Indiana just took Kent State out of their game plan. They came out defensively, and I thought that was bigger than Race Thompson leading us off, was the fact that Indiana just came out defensively and started with great guard pressure, started with good post defense, and worked in harmony and got steals, got rebounds. And like I said, the rebounds were significant rebounds because they pushed the ball up court and they turned those rebounds into conversions, or they got offensive rebounds and turned them into second chance points. So Indiana capitalized on every opportunity, not every opportunity, but the bulk of the opportunities. And we've got to shut Miami down from doing that. And if Miami, that's the strength of Miami, then that's what we've got to be watching.
The problem is this: the strength of Miami is a few things. And number one, they did make it to the Elite Eight last year, so this is an experienced team that's been there and done that before. The Hoosiers are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games, following a straight-up win. Now, the other things here that scare me is you got Omer underneath the basket, who's an absolute monster. So you're going to have to put work in to stop him. They've got 3 or 4 spot-up shooters who could take advantage of kick-out passes from offensive rebounds, which we didn't get enough of, but we gave up a lot of. And the other thing about them, really, Brian, that scares me, Miami didn't play its best on Friday, but it didn't need to, because the thing about this Hurricane team is they have several scoring options that can make up for poor shooting nights with their ability to get to the foul line and convert. I mean, they're 12th in highest free throw percentage in the NCAA. And this is a team that is tough-minded, has a tough-minded mentality, and you'd like to see that in tournament teams. And I can tell you this from reading a bunch of things nationally, predicting this game, everything comes down to this. Almost everybody I see picks Miami because they say that Miami is a tough-minded mentality. Everybody else says that's a character trait the Hoosiers have failed to match consistently. And I think that's a huge thing. I think this team can go to the Final Four if they beat Miami tomorrow, because to beat Miami tomorrow, they're going to have to play 2 high-level, consistent games in a row, which has not happened a lot this year, Brian.
Well, yeah, and when I first looked at Miami, I mean, I saw a little bit of the game last night. What they go on a 15-1 run at the end of the game, I think, or something like that.
And that was basically, they played worse than Drake. The problem was that Drake's best player, who was the Missouri Valley Conference superstar who won the Larry Bird Award, went 1 for 10 last night. Right. So that was pretty much the game. And Drake is big underneath, and they defended Drake pretty well underneath.
Yeah, and that's another thing that surprised me, because I started looking at the team. And, when you compare Indiana stats versus Miami stats, we're very comparable, except, they shoot a couple more threes than we do. But, you look at their lineup, they're basically running a 4-guard offense.
Yeah.
Miller's 6'7", but he's listed as a guard.
Hey, but the thing about that is, if you look at Miami, the big man underneath, I think this is a game where I would still want to see Trace, Race, and Malik on the court a little bit all at the same time. Because I think it gives us an advantage.
Yeah, he's a big boy, 6'7", 245, but he plays a lot bigger than that.
Yeah. He can
play. That's the part that worries me. But I agree with you. If they shut him down and our guards do what they did, is close to what they did last night, I think we got a good chance. But you can't let them go nuts on threes like we've seen it happen in a couple of games in the past. But we match up really good. I think you were spot on. What I did watch with last night's game. I don't think I wanted to play Drake. I'm glad they lost.
I told you. They got some big dudes, and if that one guy would have played like he normally did, it would have been a blowout. But when you look at Miami, the thing that scares me is I look at Miami like a month ago played Duke, who looks like maybe the best team in the tournament the way they're playing right now, winning the ACC tournament, and then just blowing the doors off of Oral Roberts. But Miami beat Duke 81-59 a month ago.
That was in Miami, wasn't it?
It doesn't matter where it is because it's 81-59.
Yeah. But they also lost to Florida State a week before that.
Yeah, but
At
that's a
home.
rivalry game also, so things happen there. But the thing
Is
is,
that what Purdue says with us?
what they lost to us twice this year, but they got a banner, and then they're out of the tournament before we are. So we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay. I'm still itching at it.
We're going to go ahead and we're going to scratch that.
I think the thing is what you guys just said was about beating Duke and then losing to Florida State. And to me, that just speaks to inconsistency. And that's what you don't want to see. And I tried to address that a little bit earlier, is that Indiana pretty much has played consistent basketball all year long, even though it maybe at times it's not their best effort, but it's been consistent. We come on, and Mike and you and I have been on all season long for the most part, and talking about the same thing. We're like, I don't have anything new to talk about because it's the Indiana game is just the same as last one. Well, I guess as you look back on it, it's kind of what you want.
That was a few years ago, Steve.
It tells me if we're running out of things to say, that means their mistakes are consistent, which they can correct. Their good things are consistent, which we like to see. But I think right now, consistent play is critical in the tournament. And as I look back on our run in 81, we did the same thing every game. We played to our game plan. We controlled things. And if Miami's out there beating Duke by 25 points and then losing to Florida State by 20, well, what team's going to show up Sunday at 5:45?
Steve, we did the same damn thing all year.
Yeah. Well, but not to that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, look at the Iowa games.
Most of our inconsistencies came in guard play, in guard
really?
in perimeter
you just
defense.
told me that you thought the guard play was great all year.
No, I never said that. Our guard
Remember, we got in an argument about that.
Our guard play was our weakness all year. Our perimeter defense was our weakness. I said our guards were more than sufficient. I never said that they were great. I said I used the word sufficient.
But you just called them a weakness.
Perimeter defense was a weakness.
Okay.
But I thought overall ball handling skills and guard play were sufficient. We get the ball up court. We don't make dumb turnovers. People don't try and press Indiana a lot because we can break it. We just give the ball to Trace and let him bring it up. And they're either going to put a guard on him. We form a mismatch. Trace is a good enough passer, can get the ball down court on a pass. And now we've got a mismatch. I mean, when you got a kid like Trace Jackson that can handle the ball, and he's left-handed, which throws people off again, as I've said, our guard plays efficient. It's sufficient. It gets the job, gets the ball up court, and gets us into our offense. And then we use our low post offense and our 15-foot and in offense. And Indiana becomes consistently very difficult to guard and defend.
All right, so let me ask you.
That's just my point.
Let me ask you this. Trace Jackson Davis or Edie, who should have been the Big Ten Player of the Year. I think we all said this like a couple shows ago, but I think it was proven out last night because we watched Purdue get beat by a team that had a guy that was no taller than 6'5". It really reminded me of 1977, the semi-state between Aurora and Lawrence Central.
I had a question about that. I had a question about that, Mike. I wanted to ask you, or Brian, whoever is the smartest of you two, which, well, I'm not going to go there.
It's pretty obvious, but go ahead.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's me.
Is there a difference between player of the year and most valuable player?
Oh, that's a great point.
I think in the NFL, they got like.
We're not talking NFL. We're talking.
I think it's supposed to be. I think the player of the year is the player of the year. It's the best player in college basketball.
I see a huge difference between player of the year. I look at Edie, and I see a 7'5" guy who can turn around and hold the ball above everybody's head. And
well, yesterday he could because everybody was 6'4",
5 or smaller. Yeah,
but then I see a kid like Trace Jackson Davis who's 6'8", or the guard Mike, who's the guy you said should have been probably.
Oh, I like Jalen Pickett from Penn
Jalen
State.
Pickett.
And that's why they're still alive, too.
Yeah. In terms of player of the year, I think Trace Jackson Davis ran circles around Edie as player
How about
of
this,
the year.
Steve? If you take either one off of either team, both teams would be screwed, though.
Oh, no doubt. That's where you get
But
into the most valuable player
Purdue
argument.
would probably be more screwed.
Okay, but who would you say is the
I
most
think Edie might be the most valuable player because I think he would alter Purdue's success much greater than losing Trace Jackson Davis would. I don't want to lose either one of them, but I think there's other players. Race Thompson proved last night. If we lost TJD right now, I think Trace would step up.
I think we'd be screwed.
Sure, we would not be as good, which would screw us. So that's an obvious point and a good point. I'm not beating on you on that one. That's a great point. But I think we would feel the shock a little less than if Purdue lost Edie. Purdue loses Edie. Well, hell, they lost Edie last night. Hell, they only gave him the ball one time in the last 12 minutes of the ball game. He took one shot in the last 12 minutes of the ball game. Are you kidding me?
Well, my issue with Painter was
20 points a game. He's
with
the
10
MVP
minutes
in the league, and you give him the ball. He takes one shot in the last 12 minutes. Painter, Matt, I like Matt Painter. He's a good guy. Holy cow. You talk about not being able to adjust and adapt, but are we getting into Purdue yet?
We are, obviously.
I think
but
we're getting
I
there.
will say
I'm sorry.
the biggest issue I saw was they made a run to go up 47-41 around the 10-minute mark, and then they immediately subbed 2 players in and slowed back down. And I mean, it was mind-blowing because I'm sitting there thinking, I can take a nap before the IU game because this is about to get out of control.
I agree.
And the next thing you know, it's not out of control again. And I think Fairleigh Dickinson, no matter what you say about it, I don't think they're going to go away easy for anybody they play. I mean, we watched it with St. Peter's last year. St. Peter's was a 15, that pulled 3 straight upsets. Hell, they beat Purdue, they beat Kentucky, and then they finally ran out against North Carolina. And Michael has some words of wisdom.
Uh-oh.
Becky is napping now, but I think you nailed it, Steve. Constant D and run. Is that a little leprechaun running with Miami until we got a good lead?
I thought of 1,000 jokes. 950 of them belong on Pornhubs.
Yeah, there you go.
Good God.
Oh my God. Hey, real quick, Mike, reread what you just wrote. Becky is napping now, but I think you nailed it, Steve.
That's what I'm saying. Michael, watch what you write, please. We have kids that aren't sleeping trying to watch his show.
He's watching the 12-hour race, and he's getting, he's watching the race and listening to the show, and I mean,
I haven't even gotten into the fact of them keep showing kids
and then
sleep at
I would like to also bring
1 o'clock in the morning, like.
I would like to bring up
1 o'clock.
Hold on now, because Becky is napping, but I think you nailed it, Steve. Constant D.
Come on, Michael. Get your head out of the gutter.
Yeah. You're right behind him, Steve. Who are you kidding? Come on.
So are you, Brian. You're an old pervert, anyways.
Yeah.
All right, so we all agreed. I'm just kidding. And you got to have
some adult community in Florida, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about this.
I'm in no damn
he probably lives in a Del Webb community.
What?
Yeah,
maybe I'm too young, don't you? What's a Del Webb community?
You don't know what a Del Webb community is?
I'm younger than you guys.
Del Webb's this guy that went down and created in southeast states and created these adult communities. It's just no kids are allowed in to live. It's all like 50 and above. You can only be 50 and above.
Is it like Vero Beach then, or what?
I don't know. They're all over the Florida, South Carolina, Southern Georgia. They're all over the place. Del Webb community. They were in Arizona. He got rich off of it. And they're called Del Webb. They're Del Webb.
We live in a quiet little 3-bedroom ranch with a pool off
Del Webb community.
No.
Or a reasonable facsimile. Anyway, back to this.
Go ahead. Back to the game.
Indiana.
It's a guy running.
I love the fact that I thought Indiana played within themselves to close, kind of put my closing on it. If they play like they played last night, obviously they're going to get to the Final Four. I believe they will. I believe the pathway is created. What are you laughing at, Mike?
Brian.
Oh, I'm not even listening to Brian right now.
Nobody is. He's not talking. It's just his
I
face
know.
that makes me laugh.
He's wishing he had Becky.
I didn't D Becky.
Get off of it, Steve. All right.
Somebody's got to D her up.
Michael can D her up. All right. So who are you guys picking? Because I also think this. Everybody, all Indiana fans want to pick Kelvin Sampson in Houston.
Oh, I wanted to.
Especially with their best player out. What? Go ahead.
In terms of Farley Dickinson, the thing that's scary about Farley Dickinson in my eyes, now these idiots think they can win.
Well, they already thought that.
Yeah, but now they've proven it a little bit to themselves. And now Farley Dickinson's dangerous as hell now. Because if their coach is good, he's going to let them just freeform it now.
Well, that's what he's been doing. I mean,
And
they've
let him
already
go.
won 2 games in this tournament because they played in the first 4 also.
Yeah, and now Farley Dickinson is a team you don't want to play.
But you give them credit. They did what a lot of teams couldn't do. They kept Edie out away from the basket with 2 short guys.
And remember this, though, about Farley Dickinson. Farley Dickinson did not win the regular season Northeast Conference Championship. They did not win the conference tournament either. They got in because they lost to Merrimack, who 67-67 or 67-66. But Merrimack, I think they've been in D1 long enough to even make the tournament. I know there was something in there.
They're not eligible yet. That's why they didn't go, and that's why Farley Dickinson went.
Yeah. So, I mean, they didn't even win their conference tournament. They came in to the first 4 at 20-15, and now they're in a round of 32.
And Brian,
embarrassed Matt Painter.
I'm not sure that the guards stopped Edie. The Farley Dickinson guards. I think Matt Painter stopped Edie.
Yeah, well, I think Matt Painter has
the Purdue debacle was just piss poor coaching.
Yeah,
and like I said, I like Matt Painter. I know the guy personally, and I think he's a great guy. He's a good Purdue basketball coach.
Yeah, trust me, I don't think he should ever be fired at Purdue.
No, I don't think he should be fired over this either. Not at all.
Never. I don't think under any circumstance should he ever be fired unless he figures out how to win a national championship. Then they should fire his ass.
Oh, you're being facetious. Okay.
I'm not being facetious. I'm being truthful. I hope they keep him forever. You know
what?
I
know the president of Purdue too. Mitch Daniels. I worked with Mitch for 4 years when we
they've got a president of Purdue. I didn't know that. I thought they just kind of randomly rolled the balls out, and I didn't know they had a school. Well, I don't like Purdue.
Mike, if you go to their Facebook,
Purdue puts astronauts on the moon,
but they can't get in the Final Four.
The very first astronaut ever to step on the moon was a Purdue grad.
Has there been any astronauts since then to step on the moon?
Yeah, there's been 10 or 12 people. I think about 10 or 12.
Brian would know. He's in Florida.
Yeah.
What?
What's the last time somebody walked on the moon, Brian?
1970. 75, 76.
Makes you wonder why it's been 50 years, huh?
Oh, no, here we go.
Don't we say the same question about IU basketball?
No, it's not a conspiracy.
Why has it been 50 years since we've hung a banner?
Well, you know what? The good thing is this. At least we've hung 5.
You're really saying
Purdue has none.
What you're really saying is 50 years to put another man on the moon, 37 years, and we haven't hung another banner yet. Indiana is really just like Purdue.
Not really, no.
Neither team has achieved success in recent modern era.
Well, Purdue has never achieved success.
You're like Kyle Guy. You're leading scorer at Lawrence Central High School in the modern era. I'm no longer considered the modern era.
Purdue made a Final Four in 1969 and 1980. That's it.
That's it.
They even had Glenn Robinson and couldn't get to the Final Four.
Well, 69 was a great year for Purdue. They put a man on the moon in 69 too.
Yeah, and they get their ass smacked down by Lou Alcindor when they get to the national championship game.
Everybody got their ass smacked down by Lou Alcindor.
Elvin Hayes didn't that one time.
Oh, that was just a game in the Astrodome.
Yeah, it was a big game. The difference was
what,
this: Alcindor played.
Wasn't there like 80,000 people there? Or
I think it was like 55 or 60. But the key to that game was Alcindor played the game injured. They played in the Final Four, and Alcindor destroyed Elvin Hayes and beat him like 102-68.
Predictions? Were you going on predictions for?
Yeah, Indiana, Miami. Brian, what do you think the score will be?
I'm predicting a high-scoring game. Indiana 90, Miami 86.
All right. Steve didn't like that score. What do you think, Steve?
I think Indiana wins by double digits, 10 to 14 points. I don't think it's that high scoring of a game. I think Indiana controls the tempo and frustrates the hell out of Miami and takes them out of their rhythm and their pace. I think Indiana's defense will play strong as a team, and they won't allow Miami to put up 88, 89 points.
I think this. I think the game is a 50-50 toss-up. I will take IU by a point because Trace Jackson-Davis will be the best player on the court. Miami is extremely good. They were one win from the Final Four last year, and they have a big man who can hang a little bit with Trace. I think this is going to come down to if Race and Malik can play well, and the guards have got to play well. They haven't been consistent. That worries me. Robert says 75-65.
I agree with Robert. I agree with Robert.
I'm going to say 80 or 77-76 Indiana, and I honestly don't care what the score is as long as we have one more point than they do.
Okay.
And Michael says the over is 168, which agrees with Brian. And almost with me, but not quite.
Michael's got a question mark there, so I mean he's guessing.
He doesn't know what it is then.
Right, exactly. He's guessing.
Michael says the score will be in the 80s. I don't care if the score is in the 10s, the 100s, or the 200s, like an NBA game, as long as we win the game. All right, guys. So this game is going to start at 8:40 approximately. So it'll probably be between 8:40 and 5 o'clock Thursday morning.
That's a good question, Mike. Are we starting games too late?
Yeah, they obviously are. I don't know why, especially on a Sunday. A Friday, maybe, but still, why wouldn't you play these games? We're just move the games up because usually at 5 o'clock, there's only one game left going, Brian? Maybe two. Yeah. Why not just start a couple more games then? And YouTube TV is awesome if you don't have it now because you can actually get all 4 games on your screen in the big version. So
I don't understand these late night games all of a sudden. I mean,
well, I can 8:40 would be all right if it actually was going to start at 8:40, but we all know it's probably starting at 9 o'clock or 9:10 because
I need some sleep.
Well, the 9:55. Well, Del Webb communities have a lights off curfew. So
do they?
What time is it, Steve? For when you and Tia went down there?
I've never stepped foot in Del Webb.
You know an awful lot about it.
I can't take that back. I did go to a Del Webb community in Hilton Head to play golf. I used their golf course, and it was a goat ranch. So, but that's okay.
Ranch. The golf course was a goat ranch?
It was a goat ranch, yeah. They had goats mowing the grass for them.
I guess that's better than sheep. But
well, if it was sheep, Steve.
It depends on what you're going to do with sheep.
Yeah. And as I just noted, Steve knows how to handle a sheep.
I've got Australian shepherds who herd sheep. I've got 2 of them.
Okay.
Well, man, this one went gutter real fast.
The Australian shepherds.
It usually does this time in the show.
Yes, it does. So we're going to wrap it up.
Purdue. Okay, seriously, Purdue.
We just talked about Purdue.
Mike, is Painter safe?
Yeah, I mean, it's Purdue. It's not like they expect to do any more than what they're doing. They just want their Big Ten championship.
Okay, but if anybody's still listening, I think everybody knows this by now.
There's more people listening now than there has been the entire show.
It set an NCAA record last night as being the only NCAA tournament team ever to lose to 3 double-digit seeds in a row.
Yeah. That's right.
13, 15, and 16 now for Purdue.
I'll give a pass. I'll give a pass on the 15 just because it was in the Sweet 16 last year.
You know the sad part
is, but the 13 and 16 was in the first round.
After the Purdue game, I pictured this Matt, again, who I like Matt. I really do. will at some point here be asked to leave Purdue and end up like at a taxidermy tech college and coaching. He'll end up never at a program like Purdue again, because the way his teams were losing games is very reflective on the coaching.
Well, what do you think about Purdue just hired Michael Lewis, and then Matt Painter can go to Ball State, because if he goes and loses in the first round of tournament every year, he'll make a lot of money.
I think that's a great move for Purdue. I think that's a great move for Purdue. Not so great a move for Ball State. I think if I was Ball State, I'd be hanging on to Michael Lewis, because I think in a couple of years you're going to see
Michael Lewis is the IU coach too, though.
You're talking about Woodson is 65 and not going to be there forever. Lewis is becoming a great replacement. Heir apparent, not heir apparent. I'm going to, because Fife, we all thought that of Dane Fife, and look what happened to Dane. I just think progressionally, if Indiana feels they have success, and I hope Mike stays there as long as Mike wants to stay at Indiana. I think he's going to, because he's up in this program every year.
As long as he keeps winning, he can stay as long as he wants.
But he is 65 years old. So how long does he going to coach? Lewis obviously is a good choice down the road. And I do not want to speculate on this basketball program without Mike Woodson as its coach.
I do, because he's 65, and at some point you have to speculate about it.
Yeah, how long do you think?
I'm not going to do it in the middle of a tournament.
I would give Woody 3 to 5 more years, though. To me, he doesn't look 65. He doesn't look old like you guys.
Yeah, and I think Mike in 3 to 5 years. In 3 to 5 years, Michael Lewis has got Ball State where Kent State and Toledo are right now in the MAC.
Oh, Michael is signing off. Becky said to say hi.
Hi, Becky.
Thanks, Michael. Check out the IU Red Chair group on Facebook.
Definitely. I think that you'll see in 3 to 5 years, Ball State will be making regular tournament appearances.
Woody made a comment yesterday in the pregame conference with the media. He said, "I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this." Now,
let's enjoy this run.
Yeah, I know. Well, I didn't bring up
on Mike.
Let's bring this up. Let's do this. Let's just win a national championship. He can retire. Michael Lewis
retired, going out of champion.
And Mike Woodson goes down as a legend.
Yeah, he brought this program back. He's a legend that returned the program.
Hell, if I was Woody and I won a national championship here, I'd get my ass out. It'd be the perfect time when you're that old.
By the way, how's everybody's brackets?
How was that lasagna, Steve? The best topic on Catch Fence. What the hell's that mean?
No idea.
Oh, stuck in the Catch Fence. All right. Y'all talked about lasagna, Steve, or did you eat lasagna?
I must have talked about lasagna. We had I probably broke some kind of rule by talking about lasagna on that show, though. So yeah, I break all the rules on that show.
Right. Now, Brian, what was your comment about the brackets?
Yeah, how bad is yours?
Steve, how bad's your bracket?
I don't do brackets, so I didn't even do one.
My brackets are fine. They're not as good if Furman loses to San Diego State, and Furman's going to lose to San Diego State. But before that, they look really good.
You could wad mine up and put it in the garbage already. I picked
Memphis
my
final. You did?
Yeah, I picked Memphis, Alabama, Indiana, and Arkansas.
All right. I had Texas. I'm looking at my bracket now, and I can barely read the damn thing. I had Texas against.
Yeah, you're younger than us, huh?
I had Texas against. I had Texas against Gonzaga, and on the other side, I had Marquette. If I could read what the hell this said, I would tell you. I don't know what the hell it says, but I have Gonzaga winning it all. How about that? That makes it easier. I have Gonzaga beating Marquette in the national championship game. So that's
Gonzaga's a sneaky team right now. I tell you what, they're under the
Grand
radar.
Canyon gave them trouble too the other night. That game was close most of the way.
Yeah, but they pulled. I mean, Mark Few is arguably the best coach in the tournament right now.
How about this, Steve? When we talk about Purdue and the upset, was that the greatest upset in NCAA tournament history?
Yep.
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
What do you think was bigger?
Well, there's only one, right?
No, I don't
16
know.
more?
You're going just on seeding, and I think the seeding's bullshit anyway. So you're going on. You're talking Virginia. Whoever beat
Chaminade. Yeah, but that wasn't a tournament game.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't. Chaminade Julian was a Division II. They were an NAIA team. That was the Hawaii.
You're talking about the Rainbow Classic, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm asking about. Yeah, I'm asking about an NCAA tournament history. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to. That's a great question, Mike. I don't think it was the 16s beating the ones because I don't put the value on the seedings.
I do because I watched the teams last night, Steve, and I thought it was a much bigger upset than UMBC because when I watched UMBC when they played Virginia, UMBC looked like a team that was vastly underseeded.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Let you finish.
I'll give you mine. Mine is 1981 St. Joe's beating DePaul.
Yeah.
They couldn't be a 16 seed, but I mean, St. Joe's beating that DePaul team. DePaul was ranked number 1 most of that year. Oh, that's the coolest ass name ever. Indian Creek Walker said, "What's up, everybody?" That's a good name. We need to have him on the show just so I can introduce him.
It's Indiana Creek, not Indian Creek.
I said Indiana Creek Walker, didn't I?
No, you didn't. You said Indian Creek.
Well, that's once again where my eyes are going to shit. So whatever happens.
Yeah, younger guy.
But yeah, to me, St. Joe's beating DePaul 42-41 is up there.
See, Mike, I don't think that the Purdue upset yesterday was that big because I think Purdue was highly overrated.
No, Steve. Fairleigh Dickinson was the third best team in the Northeast Conference.
They had one great player. And other than that, Purdue really had nothing much else. And that shows the fact that when Edey got into trouble or playability, he didn't get in a foul
give me a bigger upset then.
Pardon?
Give me a bigger upset then.
Well, I'd have to. I'm not a photographic memory like you are.
Well, the thing is this, though. If you're going to say it's not the biggest, you got to give me what is the biggest.
I don't have one. I'll agree with you. I think that St. Joe's beating DePaul was a bigger upset.
Yeah, I do because that DePaul team was loaded.
But if I research, I might pull a different one out.
I might too if I research.
Yeah,
just off the top of my head, that's the game that stuck out to me.
I would agree with you more than saying Purdue or Fairleigh Dickinson beating Purdue. I just think Purdue was the most overrated team in the tournament because I don't think they were deserving of a number 1 seed. I would have moved Alabama to number 1.
Yeah, Robert Stewart says St. Peter's. I think St. Peter's going to the Elite Eight was probably the greatest run out of nowhere deep into the tournament. And I think St. Joe's would be the other one.
Who did Florida Atlantic beat in their run?
Florida Atlantic?
Who was that school down south that made the run the one year?
Florida Gulf Coast?
Gulf Coast.
They just upset Georgetown. They lost in the second round, I think, by a point or two, didn't they, Brian? Or did they make it to the Sweet 16?
They made it to Sweet 16.
My other one would have been, what was the one? Well, you had Cornbread Maxwell with Charlotte. He took them all the way to the Final Four.
I thought Indiana beating
2018.
Indiana beating North Carolina in 81 was probably the biggest upset in the championship game.
You're out of your fucking mind, Steve. It really wasn't. I think that NC State beating Houston or Georgetown losing to fucking Villanova were much bigger. Kansas beating Oklahoma was much bigger.
NC State beating Houston is a huge upset.
Yeah, so was Georgetown Villanova. The thing people forget about those were conference rivals, though. It was the third time they'd played. And I think the first time they played that year, I think it was like an 8-point Georgetown win at home. And then the second time they played, they only won by like 5 points in double overtime against them. And we had the Indiana women won today, correct, Brian?
30 points.
I see. They always get me in trouble with the women because I'm not looking at.
They won by 30, 77-47.
Who do they play next, Steve?
What?
Who do they play next?
I have no clue. I barely know who Indiana plays.
I know. So I was going to say that is your typical response.
Would you say Purdue is the perception? Their perception makes them the biggest. They won the Big Ten regular season. They won a conference tournament. They've got the Player of the Year, and they lose to a 16 seed in the first round.
I just think Purdue was overrated all year, Brian.
It's what they do every year.
I think they were overrated. Indiana beat them twice.
Right.
I mean, I just think Purdue was overrated all year. I don't think they were a top 4 seed or top 4 team all year long. I think they had one good player that they manipulated and got good work out of him. But here you go, you take him out of the game, and look what happens.
How about
He could
this?
beat
I don't
a
think Houston
16
should be a
seed.
number one.
What?
I don't think Houston should be at number one.
Who would you
Houston
replace
did
him
not impress me. That's the first time I've seen
Well,
Houston play.
they're missing one of their best players, so you
Yeah,
can't really
yeah.
count on that. But Houston all year, I mean, they got the number 1 seed, and I think it was Alabama had 10 more quad 1 wins than they did.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, keep your eye on Gonzaga, keep your eye on Duke. Who else, Mike? Who else is in there?
Well, there's 30 other teams.
I would keep your eye on Indiana to get to the Final Four now. I think they can get to the Final Four now. I didn't believe that until I watched them play last night. And now I think that and some of the upsets that are occurring, I think Indiana can make a run to the Final Four.
Kenneth says, I cannot fathom trying to play 3 bigs versus 4 guards being an effective strategy. Well, I think it could be if you're 2 guards, but those 3 bigs are studs, but that's about the only way. But
are you
what
kidding
Matt
me,
Painter does.
Kenneth? All you do is you plant Edey on the low post, low block, and you throw
the
the ball up to him every time. You're going to do 2 things. You're going to take the ball out of the net after he's hit a layup, or you're going to foul him.
Yeah.
And you're going to put him on the line. That's all you're going to do. There's no brain surgery involved in that. You got a player like Edey, who's Big Ten Player of the Year. Yeah. Set him on the low block, throw the ball up 7'3", tell him to grab the ball up high, turn around, and hit a layup or get fouled.
Yeah, and Purdue's issue all year has been guard play, especially the second half of the year because they're running with freshman guards. And to tell you the truth, this is a classic choke job, which is
by
because
Matt
of
Painter.
this. By the players too. They looked afraid to shoot the ball in the last 5 minutes of the game.
Exactly.
Because this has happened so much to them that it's just kind of what's expected.
There are announcers that were announcing that game said, look at this. Purdue.
I mean, it was obvious to see who was the kid that kept standing up on the wing and he kept throwing the ball and nobody would guard him. And he would fake a shot, then he'd throw a pass right away. I can't even remember who the hell it was.
Is that one of the freshman guards?
It was one of the guards.
Some lanky, tall, white kid. I don't remember who it was.
I think what Kenneth's talking about is your idea about playing Malik, Race, and Trace against Miami's 4 guards. Is that
what happened to Purdue yesterday?
Well,
I would example.
I'm not saying to do it all the time. What I'm saying is this: in a tournament setting, what I want to do is I want to mix it up a little bit more. Just like occasionally, you throw a trap in, especially with the big guys. But also, as Steve said, if I'm playing the 3 of those, hell, Trace can handle the ball. It's not like we just got 3 dudes that have to stay back. And I also think this: I think against Miami's guards that if Shafino is on, Shafino can handle them. I think they've got 2 really good guards, but Shafino can handle them. And that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying at some point, and I also like the point where I think in the second half for a minute or 2, they took Trace out and just left Race and Malik in, and no damage was done because they're both playing well defensively.
Well, I think they expanded. You said, didn't they expand the lead?
And how about this, Brian? Can you fathom playing 4 guards against 3 big guys that are really good? I mean, it goes both ways, if you know what I mean.
If you got 4 guards that can shoot the 3, I'd do it all day long. But we don't.
No,
they do, but we don't.
Well, we've got 3 guards that can shoot. I mean, if Tamara could show up and start knocking these shots down, that would be huge.
Well, Mike, the one thing you got to address this, Mike, because you're a coach. The one thing we seem to forget, or I catch myself forgetting, I'll speak to myself, is that Shafino's just a freshman. Okay, I mean the guy's going to be inconsistent. He's going to play like a freshman.
That's bullshit. He's selfish, which makes him inconsistent. He's being less selfish now, and I'm sorry,
he'll be less.
He's played 33 games. I don't think that qualifies as a freshman anymore.
Okay. Were you guys a little surprised he actually went a little bit deeper on the bench yesterday?
No.
I thought he was going to do the Power 5 routine again, but
I think it's about time. He can't do that in a tournament.
Well, you can. He just doesn't have the power five to do it. I mean, we
Yeah, he
see
doesn't have the
teams do it
power
and win
five
the
to do it.
tournament,
Good point.
but yeah, I mean, you've got to use them a little bit. It's not like you've got 5 guys that are absolute studs, if you know
And
what I
like
mean.
you said, Brian, when he made the subs, when he took TJD out, it didn't affect the team. It didn't hurt the team. Let's say that it affected him, but it didn't hurt him. He wasn't missed as badly as one might think he might be by pulling him. And he got him his 2 or 3 or 4 minute rest and then got him back in there. And I love the way Mike platooned his starters in the second half. He took Miller Kopp out.
All right, Steve, real quick. Kenneth asked how you would guard Miami.
I would pressure their guard play by pushing my defense out about 5 to 10 feet above I would move the whole game defensively forward about 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 feet above the basket. And because they're a guard-oriented basketball team, from what I've seen or heard about this team, and I don't think their bigs are as good as our bigs. So I'll pressure their guards and make their guards beat us with good basketball pressure. That's what I would do.
I would zone them.
Well, yeah, that would do that. But bring your zone
up.
I
just wanted to see if you'd agree with me. It just shows me
I agree with you. Yeah, bring your zone. Yeah, play a zone. Zone them up 5, 6, 7 feet.
I'm just playing with you. We're past an hour, so. But sounds like Kent State, but slower. They are not slower than Kent State. I wouldn't say that. Would you, Brian, after watching it?
No.
I mean, Miami can run. And
Miami's
they're a veteran
never been
team.
Slow.
They're very good. Nothing in Miami is slow. I mean, number one, I mean, hell.
They proved that. They proved that at the end of the game last night when they were down. I mean, they came roaring back.
I mean, because they looked dead in the water.
Yeah.
But I think it might have been a little more Drake just choking than Miami actually taking the game. But I think it was a little bit of both. And also, I would like to, if Matt Painter's watching, I would like to let him know that when you have a team that's getting destroyed by guards who are driving constantly against you, if you would ever learn to play zone, you might have been able to win that game.
Ooh.
I mean, that's what I would have done with all the big dudes. I'd have played a zone because I don't think that team was going to. I mean, they shot the 3 all right, but I would have zoned them. Indiana Creek Walker is still an awesome name. Says Miami doesn't scare me. Kent State scared me. Everybody scares me this time of year because no Purdue fans were scared by Fairleigh Dickinson either. And Purdue fans, well, maybe Purdue fans were because they're losers and used to losing at this time of the year. So, I mean, they might have been afraid. They would probably be afraid if they were playing like a 3rd grade girls volleyball team in the first round of the NCAA tournament because they would probably get knocked out by 20 points.
Vicious.
I can't help it. Screw them. I mean, my best part of the whole thing is writing.
Well, they already were screwed last night.
My thing is writing the 17 dirtiest coaches in college basketball history. And when I wrote it, I didn't even realize this. I knew it would happen, but 5 Kentucky coaches are in the top 7. And when I wrote that article, I think, and I bet a lot of people read this and they're going to be angry. So I shared it to every Kentucky Wildcat board I could find. And 2 days later, it's had 500,000 reads. So, and I've had all kind of nasty messages saying I must be some kind of Duke son of a bitch or some redneck Hoosier. So there you go.
Well, it couldn't be from the Kentucky group because they can't read. So,
well, that's kind of the comment that I made to one of them. But John Lawson said that just earned a like, and you should subscribe on YouTube because the Indiana Basketball Show will play at least once a week. All the way through the year, we'll talk about old Indiana high school basketball, maybe some old Pacers. Maybe we'll talk about Purdue. We won't because that would be boring, but we could. Go ahead, Steve.
Brian, did you hear about the war between Indiana and Kentucky?
I don't think I heard this one.
Kentucky was throwing hand grenades across the Ohio River at us. Indiana was pulling the rings and throwing them back.
I've heard that one before.
It's not new. And I didn't invent it. So.
Is that like the joke about the 4 cars that pull up at the stop sign at the same time?
No.
Yeah, in one car you had the smart Kentuckian. In the other car you had dumb Kentuckian. The other one you had an Easter bunny. The other car had Santa Claus. Which car got there first?
No idea.
Well, there's no such thing as Santa Claus. There's no such thing as the Easter Bunny. And there's no such thing as a smart Kentuckian.
All right, that's good too.
All right, guys. Kenneth, everybody, Indiana Creek Walker. We will be back Monday, probably Monday evening at like 7 o'clock. Does that sound good, guys? And we will
fine with me,
recap
Mike.
the Indiana game.
Thanks for the invite. Thanks for letting me be a part of your show.
And you're welcome, Steve. It's always nice to have somebody like you here, which means an older person, so I get more diversity on my network, because that's a very important thing.
Mike, I have Medicare and Social Security. So,
do you?
Oh,
I get AARP shit sent to me all the time, but I refuse to join, even if it.
You know the thing about AARP? AARP is not limited to just 50 and older. Anybody in the world can join AARP.
Yeah, but I'm not joining it just because that would make me old.
I'm gonna tell you what. At MCL at 4 o'clock, you get a nice discount.
A what?
MCL. You never gone to MCL?
I've tore my MCL.
The cafeteria where you had the tray. You walk down like when you're in high school, and they fill your tray. Have you ever been to an MCL? Oh my God, Brian!
I've never been to a Turkish prison.
No, I never. And was there one in Bloomington?
No, there was not one in Bloomington.
Okay, well then I don't remember it.
But you get good sundowner discounts, man. I'm not kidding you. You go to a movie for like $3.
Hey, and in Indiana right now, it's snowing outside, and it's 2:14, and I'm bored as hell.
All right, guys. It's 75 degrees here in L.A. already.
It's 75 degrees here in L.A.
It's 82 here in Florida.
There you go. Are you in Sebring with Becky?
No, I'm in Fort Myers. I keep telling you that you don't listen.
He doesn't listen.
What's that tell you, Brian?
I know.
All right,
Brian,
guys.
What is the name of your website?
It's not a website. It's a Facebook.
It's a Facebook page. Got Woodson. Remember?
How did you come up with that name? Did you steal the Got Milk thing?
Yeah. Well, Got Wood. If you want to go perverted, you know.
Steve does. Steve really
you
does.
Got Becky all excited again.
Will you stop it, Steve? Becky did nothing wrong in this whole thing. It was Michael just worded some things wrong.
Becky's a sweetheart.
Yes, she is.
It's Michael you got to watch.
He's a troublemaker. But
you
all right, guys, remember to follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. Like and subscribe to our Facebook page. You can add on. We're headed towards 152,000 followers there. Make sure you like, subscribe to us on YouTube. We need to get up to 73,000 followers. And then check out Got Woodson. We will be back Monday at 7 o'clock Eastern to recap Indiana's win tomorrow night and preview their Sweet 16 matchup against either Auburn or Houston. Until then, for Brian Moore, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpasser. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.